Good afternoon, Tony Dattino. As you can see, I am still in New York, Westchester County, Larchmont to be exact. I'll be here for a little bit of time this summer and left Florida in 95-degree temperatures to come to what I was being told were upper 70s, low 80s to find out that we have a heat wave coming into New York this week. And so I'm an old pro at this. In Florida, we had a whole month of 95 to 100-degree temperatures with the humidity, and this is a piece of cake. Today was only 93. We went off to a park along the Hudson River, had a nice cool breeze. Water temperature 66, and managed to do okay. Which gets me to the point is that there's always a way to find solutions to challenges and issues that you've got in your life. And one of the challenges and issues that I see people have more and more is worrying about losing their memory or feeling that they forget things that are important to them. And so it always takes me back to the elements of why did I start the USA Memory Championship? And I probably have been asked that question more in the last month since I've had the opportunity of talking to several people interested in the 25th USA Memory Championship. And therefore, they're asking, why did you start this? And then why do you keep doing it? And that's an interesting question in itself. But let's get to the why did I start it. I learned from Tony Buzan, who was one of the most incredible people in the world that I ever had the pleasure of meeting, and who became my mentor and became my kind of my personal coach and feedback system, that our memories are malleable, meaning that we could improve them, that we could make changes to them. And I was silly enough to grow up thinking that, my goodness, I had a fixed amount of memory, and therefore I didn't want to use up too much of it all at one time or study too hard because I didn't want to overcapacitize my thinking capacities and or brain memory. And therefore, you know what, let's not use too much up too soon because I didn't want to get Alzheimer's, dementia, or some form of mental illness. And I actually was naive enough or innocent to believe that. I don't feel so bad after 25 years of doing the Memory Championship because one of its purposes were to demonstrate to people that you can in fact improve your memory and that its limitations are only those that are self-imposed by yourself. And that was an interesting thought process to come away and say, wow, my goodness, my memories are limited by my own thinking process, by my own boundaries that I put around it, and that I could break out of those boundaries if I then just had to have belief. Now, again, I'm one of these people that, well, you know what, belief doesn't just make it happen. You know, just because you believe it doesn't make it so. Well, in a level, the belief makes it happen if you're willing to learn the ways to improve it. And if you can take some time, so now the elements is this something important enough to you that you would want to take some time to learn what the skills are that could prove that you can improve your memory. And it brought me back to my educational days, which is grammar school, middle school, high school, even college. Did anyone ever teach me anywhere in any of my academic workshops or classes, seminars, first how memory works, what its fundamental elements are, and what the key ingredients to it were, and most importantly, things you could learn to improve it? And this is crazy because our brain is what drives our lives day after day. Our brains, when we start to have cognitive impairments or we have early stages of Alzheimer's or dementia, this is what freaks us out. Nobody wants to lose their ability to know who they're talking to or remember their loved ones or experiences that they want to share. I mean, I've yet to find that person that says, "Oh, I'll sign up and I don't mind forgetting them because I just want to forget my grandkids and my children and my husband and family and what have you." And that's not the case. So I step back and I say, isn't it kind of silly or not smart that something we use and worry and create anxieties over that we've never learned, first of all, anything much about it, got to the thought we could be educated and taught how to actually improve our own thinking capacities, and then take the time in a curriculum of some sort. And I don't care if it were in first grade or it was in seventh grade or it was in 12th grade. Take the time to learn how to do it and how to improve. What are these skills? How do you remember reading a book and retaining more of its information? We had Michael Datino and I had a Zoom session with a super successful gentleman who basically we've been working with, and he just goes through this 900-page book and he knocks this thing out like it's, here are the key points and here are the key themes and here's what I'm getting from it. And he gets up, I said, I bet you could talk to the book better than your author of the book can. And he said, my goodness, I was telling my wife this last week, I wish I understood these things when I was in school. I would have just aced all my schoolwork out and not worked and studied and crammed as hard as I had to, because this makes so much sense, and this has been work and investment, but it makes sense. What you're teaching me is logical and sensible, and it makes sense. So I go back then to, okay, if you learn to believe and you say, my goodness, and now I want to be taught, now you got to find a teacher or a vehicle, a book, a YouTube. I mean, there are so many vehicles out there now as we've learned more and more about how to improve our memory. We've got so many avenues of how we can pick our own selection process of education and learn what these skills are, learn how I can apply them, learn where they can make a difference in my life. If I'm a salesman or a person that's in HR or a person that loves meeting people and learning about their lives and their stories, and I then write storybooks. I mean, there's just enormous applications to taking the lessons of how do you remember a name, how do you remember a number, how do you remember a list of things to do, how do you better comprehend reading material, how do you pass exams, and what are the elements of memory rhythms where when I'm studying I lock myself into a process that's fit with the rhythms of long term, so I move from short to long. I mean, all of these lessons are things that I've, as my years of 25 years hosting the USA Memory Championship, have just been demonstrated by the men and women who enter the competition and then want to be finalists or study enough that they want to be finalists, which we do in September of this year at Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida. And so if any of you want to start to learn a little bit more about, or if any of you want to believe that you can in fact improve your memory, and then you in fact want to take some time to learn what those skills are, and then in fact want to take the time to practice those skills. This is not, I'm not asking you to take a PhD course here. I'm saying 10 to 15 minutes, 4 times a week. One of our mental champions, hey, you know what, 15 minutes, 4 times a week. I came in, entered the competition, and boy, I've talked about this stuff for years. And he's actually done TED Talks, and he's written a book, and you get to read Moonwalking with Einstein, and you'll know who I'm talking about. But the point that I start with, as earlier I said, was you got to have a belief, but then you have to have some time and passion and energy to want to put it as a priority to where you want to make it something you're going to learn, you're going to apply, and then you're going to go out and use it. And as you do those things, it's amazing the difference that you can make. So the person that Michael and I were on yesterday, it was like, so how do you feel about what you've learned? And he was like, wow, he was lit up, and it was just a delight to talk with and just to listen. And Michael and I, when we were finished with our Zoom session, we felt so good about the difference that we've made in a life that is now being spread to his family to some degree. That it's like we count for something, and we've made a difference, and that's what keeps me going. When people ask me, why have I done 25 USA Memory Championships, and what keeps you going in this? The bad news is I don't make money at these things. So that's the bad news. The good news is it's making a difference in people's lives. So the investment that I make in running the USA Memory Championship certainly pays off in one of my passions, which is how do you make a difference in people's lives? And when I see one person make that difference and how that one person can expand that, it just gives me in my heart and in the fuel of my own creative mind, the desire to continue to move forward. And that is concluding my Live with Tony for today. And as I step back and think about today, June the 19th, hopefully some people will watch this and get something from it that tells them, you know what, I think there's something I may want to do to see what he's talking about and see if it works for me. And I'll tell you now, it's going to work for you if you, first of all, want to take some time and invest in your own education. So check out the USA Memory Championship website. It'll keep you up to date with where we're going. We have July. At the end of July, we have the qualifying round. So if you've got any interest in this, you want to have some fun, register for the qualifying event in July, and then we pick off the top 12, and we invite them to Winter Park, Florida. So with that, you have a great afternoon. Hopefully you're not in the heat wave zone, but if you are, cold water, more cold water, and more cold water would be something really good for you. And sometimes I almost want to take the cold water and drop it over my head, or better yet, you go take a cold shower. We'll see you on Friday. You have a great rest of your week.